إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة اللهم فاجزه عنا خير ما جزيت نبيا عن أمته. We all know the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam when he took his wife and their newborn child or toddler, Ismail alayhi salam, and they went to what we know today as Mecca. At the time, there was nothing but desert. And he took his family with him and he camped there for a few days, and then he got up and left, leaving behind a jug of water and some dates. And as he's leaving, Hajar alayhi salam gets up and runs after him, calling his name, "O Ibrahim, O Ibrahim, are you leaving us behind in this uncultivated place?" And Ibrahim alayhi salam stops and he looks back, but he doesn't say anything. Then Ibrahim continues on to walk, and Hajar alayhi salam repeats the question once and twice, and on the third time, Ibrahim alayhi salam stops and he looks back. And Hajar alayhi salam asked him, "O Ibrahim, did Allah Azza wa Jal order you to do this?" And Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "Yes." Then she responds to him and she said, "إِذَنْ لَنْ يُضَيِّعُنَا." Then indeed Allah Azza wa Jal will not abandon us. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam carries on for a distance, and when he no longer can see his family and he turns back to Al-Bayt al-Haram and he raises his hand and he makes dua to Allah Azza wa Jal in a dua that Allah recorded in the Quran, where he said, "رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ." He said, "O Allah, I have settled some of my offspring in an uncultivated valley near your sacred house, O Allah, so that they may establish the salah. So, O Allah, make people's hearts inclined towards them and give them from fruits and sustenance so that they may be thankful." The story is famous, it's known, it's been repeated a million times, but I wanted to take a different look at the story. I wanted to spend more time to talk about the story today and understand why is it that Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't say to Hajar from the get-go before they even took the trip, say, "Hey, by the way, Allah Azza wa Jal told me that we're going to go to this uncultivated valley. I'm going to drop you off there. I'm going to leave some food for you, and I'm going to go." And just set the scene from the beginning. Why is it that he did not say that? Not because he doesn't care much about his wife or his child. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your 1 or 2 or 3-year-old child is fully dependent on you. Your wife or your spouse is fully dependent on you, and you can't just leave him off like that. That's not something that regular people do. So why didn't Ibrahim say that from the get-go? And why didn't he say that when he was leaving? Why didn't Ibrahim alayhi salam, as he's about to leave this uncultivated valley, say to his wife, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving now," etc., etc.? And why didn't he respond the first time when she called his name, and the second, and so on? And if you ask me, and obviously it's just me thinking out loud here, it has to do with the fact that Ibrahim alayhi salam is a human being. He's worried. He's worried about his kid, his wife. Not to say that Ibrahim alayhi salam does not trust Allah Azza wa Jal. Astaghfirullah, that's definitely not it. But Ibrahim alayhi salam is a human being. Being worried or having sense of worry about your family, your future, this or that, is something human. As a matter of fact, Allah Azza wa Jal instilled that in us as a defense mechanism if we're about to do something dangerous, to get this fear so that we're cautious, so that we don't do something that is wrong, or to get into a harmful situation. Being worried or being scared for yourself or for your kids or for your future is something that is as human as your blood and your skin. It is only when it's excessive that it becomes dangerous. It's only when it transgresses the norms that it becomes destructive. That you become worried about everything and anything. You live in fear all the time. Even more amazing is the response of Hajar alayhi salam when he told her, when she stopped him the last time and she asked him, did Allah order you to do this? And his response was yes. Her response is even more amazing, where she said, then Allah Azza wa Jal will not abandon us. Total and complete trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Total and complete trust in Allah Azza wa Jal is something that is the core of our deen. It is a core of what we believe in, that Allah Azza wa Jal will take care of us. That Allah Azza wa Jal is Allah and we are His servants. That He did not create us to leave us out there without taking care of us. As a matter of fact, listen to how Allah Azza wa Jal describes Himself in the famous verses of Surah Al-Hashr, where He said, هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. Allah Azza wa Jal describes Himself with His own attributes, and some of these names and attributes that He mentioned in these 3 verses are that He's the entirely merciful, He's the most compassionate, He's the knower of the unseen, He's the pure, He's the perfection, He's the overseer of all things, He's exalted in might, He's superior, and He's the creator of all things. So let me ask you this. If one being has all these attributes and then some, how can we not trust Allah Azza wa Jal? If one being is the most merciful, the most compassionate, if one being is, one of His names is the sustainer, if one being is exalted in might, how can we not depend on Allah Azza wa Jal? How can I not factor in the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal is Allah in all my affairs? And my trust in Allah Azza wa Jal is at all time high, all the time, knowing that Allah possesses all these attributes. As a matter of fact, listen to this one hadith Qudsi that the Prophet ﷺ relayed to us, saying that Allah said that I am as my servant think of me. I am as my servant think of me. Our perception of Allah Azza wa Jal dictates how we live our life, believe it or not. If we see Allah Azza wa Jal as a merciful God, if we see Allah Azza wa Jal as a God who is generous, everything that happens to us in life will be viewed through that lens. It's amazing that Allah asks us to have good opinion of Him, when in fact the opposite, one would think the common sense would dictate that the opposite is true. That Allah's perspective of me, Allah's opinion of me, is more important, or is important, and it is, no doubt. But the emphasis here is your opinion of Allah Azza wa Jal, your view of Allah Azza wa Jal. Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, let no one die without having good opinion of Allah Azza wa Jal. It goes to the core of what it means to say that La ilaha illallah. It goes to the essence of our tawheed, that I rely on Allah Azza wa Jal in all things. And if something is going wrong in my life, which is almost always the case, because this is life, if something is going wrong in life, know that this is a test from Allah Azza wa Jal, not to punish you. The whole idea is not to get you punished. It's not to bully you into feeling lonely and feeling weak. That's not the point. The point is that Allah Azza wa Jal tests us so that He knows, and so that we know that we are on our way to Allah Azza wa Jal. Let me explain it to you for a second. The whole essence of this deen is that Allah Azza wa Jal told us to do something. And Allah Azza wa Jal put in us this instinct to care about ourselves, this nafs, this hawa, this desire that we have. And these two, Allah's orders and our desires, don't always align. They align sometimes, but they don't always align. It is at the time when they don't align that the test occurs. Another example of that, My son, 3 years old, loves cookies. It's his favorite thing. If I tell him, you can eat this cookie today after dinner, and I leave it right there in front of him, he has a choice. The choice is, I can eat it now, because it's right there, I can have it. Or I can eat it when my dad told me to eat it. And based on his decision, now he's going to get the cookie one way or the other. But based on his decision at this moment, it tells me whether or not he cares about what I say or not. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلِ الْأَعْلَى. Allah Azza wa Jal told us how to live our life. And He will test us to see whether or not we're going to live according to what Allah Azza wa Jal ordered us to do. It's about us really winning or succeeding in that test or not. Another aspect of this story is the goodbye, is the leaving, is the beginning of something new and the ending of something else. You know, subhanAllah, one of the things about saying goodbyes or farewells in general is that it is the beginning of something and an end of something. And nothing can really highlight this. And I know we're a month or so displaced from Ramadan, but just think back with me for about a month or so ago, the last few days of Ramadan, and how you felt after being spiritually high for a full month, especially the last 10 days. How did you feel about it? This living in a godly fashion, living in a way that is righteous all the time. You're fasting, you're weak, but you're strong in the sense that you're not committing sins. The small things that we normally do, you're staying away from them. There's a sense of love and affinity to Ramadan, and Ramadan ends, and there's a sadness that overshadows everything else. But look at how Islam celebrates the end of Ramadan. This is a beginning of something new and an end of something that is passing. What's the first thing that we do the very next day of the end of Ramadan? We celebrate the Eid. We dress nice. We go out in the best clothing. We invite people over. We give kids gifts. We celebrate the beginning of the beginning of after Ramadan. Similarly in life, whatever situation that we're going through, whatever Hajar alayhi salam was going through at that time, she didn't know that because of this incident we're going to have Zamzam today. She didn't know that every person who does Hajj from that point on is going to do the same exact Safa and Marwa trip that she did. She didn't know that at the time. Things happen for a reason, and Allah Azza wa Jal has an amazing way of directing us into going a certain direction that perhaps you and I don't see it as a good direction, but Allah Azza wa Jal, the knowing of all things, the knower of the future and the past, Allah Azza wa Jal knows. So trust Allah Azza wa Jal. Put trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Whatever situation that you're going through, know that Allah Azza wa Jal decreed that لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah Azza wa Jal will not burden a soul with that more than with that it cannot bear. Whatever situation that you and I are going through today, whether it's at work or home, whether it's a family or friends, whether it's whatever the case is, recognize that Allah Azza wa Jal put you in this situation as a test, but also recognize that Allah put you in this situation because Allah knows that you can overcome it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة وسلام على عبده الذي اصطفى أما بعد. It's been said in life in general, you're never as good as people think you are, and you're never as bad as people say you are. Some might find you righteous, others might find you criminal, and some might find you somewhere in between. But the truth is, the reality and the truth is, the only one that knows the secret of that relationship between you and Allah Azza wa Jal is you and Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't be flattered by those who praise you all the time. And don't be hurt by those who criticize you all the time, because it doesn't matter. You are as good as you are based on your relationship, the truth of that relationship between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. Not based on what I see in you, and not based on what others see of you. And if you are truthful with yourself, and if you truly know and investigate that kind of relationship that you have with Allah Azza wa Jal, then you know that you need to improve. Then you know what you need to do to become better with Allah Azza wa Jal. Regardless of what others say of you. One of the dangers, it's been also said that one of the dangers of fluctuating between sinning and obedience is that you don't know when your life will end. Whether it's at a time that you're sinning or a time that you're being obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal. We fluctuate. We fluctuate all the time, knowing that I don't know when I'm going to die. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that all sons of Adam are sinners. It's something that is in us. It's part of the sunnah of life. But knowing that, then it makes logical sense. It is logically proper for us to believe that we need to do more good than we do more bad. It's simple math. And we all know it. The reality, the application of this knowledge seems to be lagging behind our conclusion nonetheless. So do more good deeds than required. Not as an act of generosity, not as a favor to Allah Azza wa Jal. Astaghfirullah, no. Because indeed, you are in need of those deeds more so. And Allah Azza wa Jal is in no need of them. Indeed, you are in need of those deeds, and Allah Azza wa Jal is in no need of those extra deeds. But knowing that we fluctuate, and knowing that at one point we might pass suddenly, then the chances of me doing more good deeds would increase my chances that my end would fall on a good end. And also recognize that the haram is haram, regardless of what people say. Especially in this time, especially in this society. Regardless of what society stands for. Regardless of what society stands for. Understand that the haram is haram, whether or not they agree with it. We follow Allah Azza wa Jal. We follow the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. We stand with Allah Azza wa Jal. This just do it mantra does not work with Allah Azza wa Jal when we deal with Allah Azza wa Jal. This if it feels good, do it type of mantra does not work when we deal with Allah Azza wa Jal. Rather, what pleases Allah Azza wa Jal has been documented. What pleases Allah Azza wa Jal is known. It's in His book, it's in the seerah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's in His sunnah. We know, even innately, inherently, we know what's good, what's bad. This fitrah that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. This filter that if we pass our actions through, we can clearly see what is good and what is bad. And it's up to you whether or not you want to follow what Allah Azza wa Jal, the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because people's desires fluctuate. What's socially accepted today was not socially accepted 5 years ago. And what was socially accepted 5 years ago might not be accepted today. Because people fluctuate. People's opinions change. But Allah Azza wa Jal is constant. But Allah Azza wa Jal is constant. And what pleases Allah Azza wa Jal is constant. And what displeases Allah Azza wa Jal is also constant. Remember what Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. That whoever turns away from my remembrance, whoever turns away from Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal said, indeed he will live a depressed life. مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. A depressed life. A life that is ungodly. A life that is hollow. A life that is not serene and tranquil. Because you're away from Allah Azza wa Jal. And while you're staying away from the haram, have an act of worship that is done only in secret. Because just like sins that are done in secret can destroy us, good deeds that are done in secret can also save us. Recognize, and we all have it, inevitably, because we're all sinners. Things that we do in secret, things that we do behind closed doors, things that we do that we wish for others not to see, for one reason or the other. Those things are muhlikat. Those sins can destroy us. But you can balance that out. If you can't just quit it, you can balance it out by having something else also done in secret that will get us closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. And finally, I'll end with these 3 statements of some of our predecessors that I hope that we can implement in our lives today. And they mimic and they're close to each other, so listen to this. The first, they used to say, whoever improves what's between them and Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal, whoever improves what's between them and Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal will improve what's between them and the people. And the second, whoever improves whoever improves his private affairs, Allah Azza wa Jal will improve his public affairs. And the third, whoever focuses on the hereafter, whoever focuses on the hereafter, the greatest of all tests, Allah Azza wa Jal will take care of his affairs in this life and in the hereafter. For certainly, the worst kind of loss, brothers and sisters, the worst kind of loss is knowing that paradise is as wide as the heavens and the earth, and you and I don't have a place in it. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us among the people of paradise. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us among those who are forgiven. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to take care of us, and take care of our families, and take care of our children, and take care of our spouses. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us, and forgive our teachers, and forgive our friends, and our parents, and their parents. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless this community, and make us people of the masjid, and make us people who are godly and righteous. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us among those who are in His favor. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us away from the hellfire. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of the people of paradise. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأقم الصلاة.